This had better be important.
Yes, sir. The American agent has infiltrated the X-Lab facility.
Welcome back to the Funker 530 Combat Footage Review. My name is Ronnie. I'll be your host tonight on this Thursday, the 3rd of July, 2025, where I'm going to take you through everything that I thought was interesting from the worldwide world of warfare. And we're going to start pretty hot right out of the gate here. But do me a favor, tap on the like button, drop a comment in the chat to let me know where you guys are. And first and foremost, before I forget, I hope you enjoy your 4th of July tomorrow. But let's get started with a bit of footage that we technically already had access to about 90% of, frankly. This is a strike that took place on 15 June during the 12-day war between Israel, and technically the United States, and Iran. More specifically, their nuclear sites, sort of, and government sites, sometimes. Again, we had most of this footage already, but new footage has come out showing that there might be aspects to this strike that hadn't really been understood previously. First, I'm going to show you all the footage that we had already. Again, this is from 15 June. It's going to take place in Quds Square in Tehran. Now, this was a strike, and there were actually 2 munitions used here that ultimately resulted in quite a bit of flooding. I'm going to show you some of that footage now. This was a topic that was covered pretty heavily at the time. Tehran is flooding. Israel is targeting Tehran's water supply, etc. Here is more footage. Note the flag. Now, that flooding is actually happening because deep down below that road, there's a pipe. That pipe just was absolutely decimated by something. More footage. There's no audio to this one. What you're looking at here is a massive hole, though. There's a hole in the ground there. And it has, I don't know what size of pipe that is. We're going to get a more clear view of it here in just a minute. It has essentially just filled this blast crater with water. And then I'll show you one more after that water had receded. Again, this is all footage that we had available to us back on the 15th of June. Here is a view inside of that blast crater. So you're looking at it from the opposite direction now. The flag in Quds Square would be immediately behind the cameraman right now. These are Iranians attempting to repair that piping. Restoring power, waste. I'm not sure whether that's a water line or a waste line, but essentially restore that infrastructure. The reason this is coming back up again is the Iranian government released new footage of that strike, specifically from a CCTV camera. Now, on the 15th, we had that immediate aftermath footage from recorded from on the ground, that video that we watched very first. But we didn't have this. This is recorded from a CCTV camera. It's technically a video of somebody recording a recording. So, you know, you're taking a camera and looking at a screen. But it does provide a whole lot more context into the strike. Here you are. Let's stop here for a second. I'll walk you through essentially what just happened. So you have two munitions that were used. The first hits this building in the back. Each are bunker busters of some variety. This one hits either from the side or from the top. Some people said that it appeared as though it came from the side based on the way the blast goes. But the way bunker busters work is you can actually have them detonate, you know, at a certain distance down. So there's a likelihood that it still came from the top and just blew everything out the side. Now, the one I really want to talk about, though, is this one down here at the bottom. What you're looking at here is basically traffic. Right? So presumably there are going to be civilians intermingled here. There's people walking all around. But as we watch the first strike, we see the second come into frame, and it's going to create an entry point here. So we see the first indication that these are bunker busters by that punching through the asphalt. It actually lands right in between these vehicles. It doesn't appear to hit any of the vehicles. From there, we see it detonate below ground, throwing these cars into the sky. What you're also going to have is you're going to have all the pressure from that pressurized line, potentially. But note the strike here and then this one. The first run through this video, I saw this cloud over here on the right, and I thought there was a third, but that's actually just debris, dust, etc. that's coming off of that very first strike. Now, here is ultimately what's happening with this video. The Israeli Defense Ministry has announced that they will be conducting an investigation into this strike specifically. In my opinion, they would have already known that this strike, if it was errant, which it appears very much to have been errant, they would have already known that that happened. So them announcing that is solely because there's now some level of evidence that it was an errant strike. Their first appears to have hit its potentially desired target. Who knows what their targeting packet looks like. But with the announcement of this from the Iranian government, now the IDF is essentially saying, we're looking into it. That is pretty normal, in fact. So a lot of people would make the argument, if you will, that, oh, we investigated ourselves and found no, but that's pretty standard, actually, until somebody in the UN or the International Criminal Court decides to conduct their own investigation into it. It is pretty standard for Iran, as well as Israel, as the two belligerents, to conduct their own internal investigations into things like this. And the outcomes of those investigations will themselves be telling. But I thought that this was an important one for us to cover because there was a lot of discussion about the precision of Israel's air campaign over the course of that 12 days, wherein, in fact, we see here that at least one of those strikes did certainly go errant, at least based on the video and information that I have at hand. I'm going to pause for just a moment and check in on the chat and hang out with you guys for a moment. No, I think these are from like 2 weeks ago. Correct. This strike is from June 15th. This is new video of that strike, though. Was that after the supposed ceasefire? No, it was not after the supposed ceasefire. If I understand correctly, the ceasefire has been honored by both Israel and Iran, not necessarily Iranian proxies like Yemen, who are continuing to fire ballistic missiles. We'll see the shoot down of one of those in exo-atmospheric style here in just a little bit. The second bunker buster bounced off the building. You can see the ricochet. All right, let's take a look at it. First one. Okay, so here are the two frames that he's referencing. So we have a munition here. It's very difficult to see, but we do. That is a little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for, where things are distorted in video, but that's the munition itself. And I don't see that as being a ricochet. What I see is just its trajectory there. Right? So here's your munition coming downward at this angle, which would explain this strike as well, and all of that getting pushed out so far this way. Okay, let's move on to our next bit of video that I have for us. We're going to stick with Israel and Iran, technically, even though this is going to be a strike in Lebanon, specifically Beirut. I don't have a great geolocation for this. However, it was a strike from the IDF targeting what was reported to be a Quds Force operative. Here you are. Let's bring it back up. Again, that was sometime within the last 24 or 48 hours, something like that, targeting a Quds Force operative near Beirut. I'm reading through the chat here because I think it's important to continue conversation about that first strike. There will most certainly be times where a strike does not hit its intended target. It's placating to say, well, that's just what happens in war. It's not what's supposed to happen. Right. So just stating that happens is really just, again, brushing it aside. What certainly needs to happen is an objective review of exactly how that happened. If it was a munition failure, if it was a targeting failure, those things certainly should be talked about, and we should be able to say, hey, that's not supposed to happen, without justifying it as just some side effect of war, right? I've talked plenty of times. You guys have heard me say 1,000-fold that civilian casualties are an unfortunate side effect, though a reality, of every war that has ever happened. Understanding how they happened, though, working and doing our best to try and mitigate those or limit them from the future is actually part of what you're supposed to do. Remember, three things: intent, proportionality, and precaution. Those are the things that matter very much when it comes to what we have as a society defined as war crimes, right? What was the intent of that strike? Did it intend to hit that row of cars? I doubt it. What's the purpose of that? Are they targeting the pipe? You're trying to make an argument that they're trying to take out the water supply? No. You got to look at the rest of the strikes that were taking place. It was all military infrastructure. It was taking out leadership. From a proportionality perspective, that wouldn't fit, even if you tried to make the argument that, well, maybe one of them was leadership driving a vehicle. That wouldn't make any sense. So you have to take multiple aspects of that strike into perspective. But again, that doesn't mean that you can or should just set it aside as, it happens. We've got to be able to talk about these things, right? And in their own shell. Certainly it matters, the reasons that Israel was conducting the strikes, their justification for taking military action. But we still have to be able to evaluate that strike in its own context. The same thing applies to Russia, to Ukraine. So were Ukraine to conduct a quote-unquote war crime, we would have to be able to look at that in its own context. Yes, Russia has documented multiple war crimes. It's crazy how many they do and just don't care that it gets out into the wild. We just published one not too long ago. But we would have to be able to cover those individually without respect to the whatabouts. Let's move on. I've got a little bit more footage of that strike against the Quds operative in Beirut. This is immediate aftermath. All right, let's bring it back up. Still sticking with the IDF, with Israel. This time we're going to move into Gaza. Discretion advised. I should have probably called that out on the last couple. Maybe you should just be advised when you join the stream from now on that things might get a little bit spicy. This is going to be from the perspective of a Hamas operative. There's no real way to describe what happens here other than he runs up on an APC, dumps an explosive into it, and it detonates. This strike, or excuse me, this action killed 7 IDF troops. Discretion advised. Here you are. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit here because what's about to happen is just a repeated replay of that action itself. You showed this last time? I don't believe I did, Brendan. A year or two ago? No, this is more recent than that. There's the detonation as he's running away. You've definitely seen this before? Yeah, probably while I was away. Yeah, there have been a multitude of videos not unlike this one, and we did cover one similar when I was here last. They ran up behind it, tried to open the hatch up. They were originally setting up a shape charge, and then it starts driving away. This one did not drive away. They were sitting there with the hatches open for whatever reason. I'm not certain. They could be sleeping. It's hot. I don't know. There don't appear to have been any guards posted of any kind. Don't appear to be any infantry around or dismounts. But if I understand the context correctly, I'm not your news anchor. I'm here to give you the context that I understand with this video. 7 IDF troops were killed in this action. There was an airstrike about to happen where they were supposed to take cover in the vehicles. That would presumably, I'm not here to armchair quarterback. I feel like I would have closed the hatches, though. That's just me. I'm not there. I have the benefit of being in my basement thousands and thousands of miles away, frankly. Let's move on, though. We're going to be headed to... We're staying technically in Israel. This is going to be an exo-atmospheric intercept, i.e. an outside the atmosphere intercept of a ballistic missile fired from Yemen. These are always super interesting to see. It's pretty cool. All right, that's what I have for you out of Israel, Gaza, Yemen, Iran, the Middle East. CENTCOM is forever. I want to take you to an intermission and give props to Staff Sergeant Andrew Morgan. Andrew Morgan with the National Guard is here just absolutely being a swinging dick and saving people's lives. This is an injured hiker on Mount Washington. This happened just yesterday. When we have footage like this, I absolutely love covering it. We are Funker 530, veteran community and combat footage first. Veteran community first. That's gangster stuff. That's what that is. Hell yeah, staffs aren't. Get after it, dude. All right, pausing for a minute to check in on the support, and thank you guys very much for it. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you very much. Edgy, thank you very much for the 5. FK, thank you for the 37 months of membership. Happy birthday. It's not my birthday. But thank you very much for 37 months. Trouble Actual, welcome to the Funkers, and thank you as well, buddy. Let's move on to the next bit of footage that I have. We have a very short Around the World segment. I wanted to kind of show you a scene from, you know, that scene in Godzilla where he says, "Let them fight." I'm going to give you one of those. First, let me log into the website here. This one's coming fresh off the homepage. This is going to be Tariqi Taliban being eliminated, killed by drone-dropped grenades from Pakistan. Let them fight. All right, CJ, thank you for gifting 5 memberships, man. Holy wow, dude. Tools and Tactics, welcome to the Funkers. On behalf of CJ there, thank you so much. We're going to be already headed into our Ukraine footage that I have for you tonight. This section is quite long. And there's a reason we did such a short Israel section tonight and a short Around the World section. We're going to get to a point in the Ukraine footage tonight where there's going to be a 15-minute long video, and we're going to watch all of it. We're going to watch all of it because it's extremely high definition. There's no music at all. It shows direct action. It shows mechanized infantry doing what mechanized infantry do, essentially playing jump out games with into an ambush. It's a pretty hair-raising video, and we're going to watch, again, all of it. So I'm going to burn through this first little bit of Ukraine footage, and we'll get to that video when it comes up. Let's move to UA control map here. Just filter on it. We are going to check on this location. It's going to be all the way up in Sumy. A heavy air campaign from Russia in the north. Kind of note this section of held ground from Russia in Sumy. I'm going to bring you back out so you can see where we are relative to the previous forward line, or to the rest of the forward line here. But a heavy air campaign from Russia. A series of videos here are going to show impacts here, impacts here, and then a third video with impacts here. So really all in this area. And here. All in that same little area there. Let's get started with the first video. It's coming up for you now. Are you not going to talk about the U.S. strikes in Iran? There isn't a whole lot of video. I've published quite a bit on other socials from us about those strikes. But there's not a whole lot of information other than what's available on satellite. All right, I think we already watched that one once through. Let's take a look at this next one. More airstrikes from Russia against what are presumed to be Ukrainian positions. It's being weird. Hold on. There we go. Paste. Go. Wrong one. I've done this before. There we go. Happy birthday, Ronnie. Thanks for being here. It's not my birthday. Mike check. Thank you for the $10, sir. Late and happy. Cringe. Okay. Maybe I was wrong. I might have seen that Hamas attack on the tank with an open hatch on Willie OAM. Yeah, it's very possible. So something to remember, guys, is I'm only here once a week, if that. And I travel a lot for one of my like 2 or 3 different jobs, right? So I'm typically traveling for the National Association for Gun Rights or for Funker 530. And those are the things that pay the bills, right? The stream has always been my love, the thing that I absolutely 100% will do until forever. But I got to keep the lights on. So that travel typically takes precedence. And last week, I was on travel once again. So if I'm only here once a week, there's a likelihood that you guys might see something on another channel or on another show that when you come here, I'm having to cover for the first time because I think that it provides an intense amount of value, provides a lot of context. It has major news value to you, like that strike in Tehran, or like the lessons that can be taken away from that Hamas video targeting the APC. So again, doing my best to just cover the high points, especially when I'm away for about a week and a half. Let's move to our next video. It's not just Russia that is working an air campaign though. So we're going to see quite a bit of footage of Ukraine's air. This is specifically going to be MiG-29, if I'm not mistaken. Dropping spicy pills on that building right there. That video is coming up for you now. Here you are. Would love to see you in a collab with the Pepperbox boys. I might have something of my own launching on Pepperbox soon. We'll see though. Let's move to Kharkiv. This is a super interesting video here. It's going to take place here. It's a rail bridge. Come on, scroll out, please. Scroll out. Note the proximity, the location from a forward line perspective there. The video we're going to see is from a Ukrainian FPV drone's perspective. Underneath this bad boy are a boatload of explosives, probably rigged by the Ukrainians to slow advance of Russia, should they need to. Think Saving Private Ryan blowing the bridge at Ramel. Here you are. Just going to drop that little gem. What? Let's see if we can pause on those explosives. Look at all those damn things. You got mines in there. Some probably plastic explosives in there. Oof. Like that box didn't grow on the bridge. I assume bridge is gone, but are we sure? Nope. No idea. What you see is what I've got. All right, let's bring it up. This is an interesting one. I haven't seen one of these in a while. And that's primarily because we don't see, from a chopper perspective, not since relatively early in the war. I mean, we've seen a little bits in here since. But from a chopper perspective, we don't see a whole lot other than that lofted technique where they nose the chopper up and just kind of that away a bunch of unguided rockets. We're going to watch Russia employing an LMUR, which is their light multi-purpose guided rocket. It's not necessarily an analog or directly comparable to the Hellfire. It's kind of close, right? They have different targeting systems. They're both very relatively accurate rockets launched by choppers primarily. Anyway, it hits here. You guys see the video of the Su-57? It wasn't a 57. I think it was a 34, wasn't it? Oh, no, it was a Frogfoot. Right? Yeah, we did watch that. Or at least I covered it on other socials. Certainly. Anyway, here's this guided rocket being used. So not minute of grid square accuracy. Correct. Correct. Su-25s? Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought. No, it wasn't a 35. I can find it. I can pull that up. All right. Big bada boom. We're headed to Donetsk, where we have a very large explosion that took place. I don't know if that's going to be the right. I don't think that's the right. It sure isn't. Stand by. Let me. Yeah, here it is. Here. Kind of note where that is there. Yeah, this thing's gone. It's not there anymore. You're seeing a before photo of it because this happened to it. I don't know exactly what they targeted it with.
Yeah, but.
Oof.
Yeah, but.
Once upon a time, when we would see footage like this, there's a whole very vocal minority of people that continue to say that these explosions are tactical nukes. They're not. It's not. Stop it. That's what happens when you have a lot of ammunition, a lot of rockets, grenades, claymores, Mon 50s, whatever they are, anti-tank mines, fucking everything just going off all at once. That's what you get.
Yeah, but.
All right. Not far from there. We have a real gross one coming up here in a minute. Just, it's not yet, but just, I'm letting you know, maybe check back in about 20 minutes. But not far from there. Here, I guess it's kind of far. It's pretty far. It's kind of far. We have an FPV drone chasing down a Ukrainian quad. They're real stacked up on this quad too. I want to say there's 3 or 4 guys on there. Whoa. Oof, sorry about your ears, guys. It's a series of videos, but that's the geolocation of the Ukrainian quad. There it is. So something to note is this FPV drone is just sitting here watching this vehicle, and the ATV just drives by it. Thermobaric munitions cooking off. That would make sense. Look at the EW on that car. Yep. So we're going to cover a little bit of EW here in a bit. Actually, in like 2 more videos. Santa, I'm not sure why it's not giving you the option there. And thank you very much for the $2. I left the Enforcers channel. I subscribe here, U.S. Air Force. Thank you for your service. Hey, Voltage, what's going on? Restart YouTube. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yep. All right. I have another one that I want to share with you guys. Discretion heavily advised on this. In the vein of electronic warfare. Need to go to... Just give me a second. Talk amongst yourselves. Here we are. In the vein of electronic warfare, it is being employed by both sides, actually, to great effect most of the time. It's one of the reasons for the proliferation of the fiber optic drones, the ones that are toting around a tail of fiber optic cable that goes all the way back 10 kilometers plus to the operator at times. These are Russians on an ATV with a very clear electronic warfare capability sitting right on the front of it. What's going to happen, though, is if this is the video I believe it is, there's going to be 2 perspectives. One is the drone's perspective, and you're going to see it as it flies in. One is from on the ATV. Now, it's from that second perspective that we see a very gruesome impact. And I want to reiterate that the next video is going to not be good. Here you are. So this is not the one that I thought it was that has the second perspective. All right, let's bring it back up. So there's a reason that I wanted to cover that one, and that's because of the electronic warfare equipment primarily. The complacency that can happen when you think you have a Duke system. We rolled around with Dukes all the time. The Duke is a system that stuck out of the top of our vehicles, looked like a big ding-dong. It made us stick out to the rest of the world so that we were nothing but targets for small arms. But it was only going to be capable with the intelligence and information that we had available to ourselves. The frequencies that were being used for RC IEDs, remote-controlled IEDs. From an application perspective, that's not unlike these jammers, these electronic warfare suites that we see on these ATVs and these trucks and tanks. We're going to see another video of a tank. And that one might be successful. As we get further down the path of drones and those proliferating even more, we're kind of in this honeymoon phase right now where we're figuring out the best frequencies, the most common channels, the best way to mitigate the remote controlled drones. There will come a point that this becomes somewhat normalized. First of all, that video should never be normalized for anybody. It's not an easy one to watch, but it does grab your attention. There will come a point to where drones are a bit more normalized. In fact, you'll find units within the United States Army in the 82nd. Somebody that's really awesome to follow is Casual Artillery Fan. I think so. Casual Artillery Fan. He and I have talked behind the scenes before. He's an active duty captain in the United States Army, shares a lot of insights about being a company commander with a unit that specializes in drone warfare within the United States Army. The proliferation of this, we're in this honeymoon phase right now where we're starting to develop these mitigation strategies, but the drones are themselves outpacing those mitigation strategies. Just because you have that electronic warfare suite doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a shotgun guy sitting on the back. Your Airwatch. That's what Airwatch looks like now, is a dude with a shotgun. I'm telling you, it's not the best, but it's the best last stand that you've got against a drone. We're going to see footage of that last stand attempted with a rifle. Here in a little bit. But let's move on. Let's move to this video here. So note, this is a fiber optic drone, almost undoubtedly. It's a Russian drone chasing down a pair of Ukrainian tanks, Ukrainian vehicles. Note how clear the image is here. No video of impact, but there's some level of there's some likelihood that this could have absolutely damaged the power pack in the back there. Now, speaking of morbidity, macabre humor in the military is something that isn't truly understood by many people, right? You're probably not going to be able to understand what this guy's saying. We're in the Pokrovsk area of Ukraine right now. I don't have great geolocations for this, and you'll understand why here in a second. We're going to see this from the inside of a vehicle. It's not necessarily the best video to show you from, an effects perspective, but from a soldier's perspective, maybe. I'll tell you what he said here in a minute.
Едем на Покровск, но сказали, назад будет посвободней. Едем на Покровск, но сказали, назад будет посвободней.
He effectively said something akin to, we're headed to Pokrovsk, and we expect to have more room in the vehicle on the way back. That's that soldier's humor.
Едем на Покровск, но сказали, назад будет посвободней.
And they are packed in there like sardines. Oof. All right, let's bring it up. Now, here is an instance of an electronic warfare suite probably doing its job, defeating the drone. And you actually see this more than you think, right? So there's a common theme with folks like, why aren't they using jammers? Well, when you're watching this footage of drone strikes, right, and we don't cover a ton of drone strikes here, I would say that video of the Russians on the bike, that was novel from a coverage here perspective. But when you're watching a lot of these drone strikes, and as the drone gets towards its target, you see it getting all staticky. That's because it's getting close to that jammer, and that jammer is starting to jam the receiver on the drone. You're seeing electronic warfare all the time. Right. What likely happened here is there's an electronic warfare suite on this tank. It was loaded with the right frequencies to be able to jam the receiver on this FPV drone, and the FPV drone missed its mark because the tank isn't a small target. Here you are. Whoop. You blink and you'll miss it. So the tank saw that happen. The dudes in the tank are like, hold on a second. They stop the tank. Yeah, from the operator's perspective, let's go back to this. From the drone operator's perspective, he would have lost signal, long before you see the drone in frame here, right? And there's going to be aspects to that as well. Not all of it's going to be EW. If you have a drone, you know what I mean. So I have one of the small original Mavic Minis. I actually got it not too long ago. Super cheap. It was like an estate sale my brother-in-law went to. He picked it up for real cheap and then sold it to me for $45. It's brand new. Anyway, I got it too far out there, and it started getting all staticky. And that's not because somebody's jamming me out there, but then you're gonna have to deal with these remote drones with connectivity. And once it starts to get below the horizon there, and your remote can no longer connect to it because of all the trees, buildings, etc., between you and your target. What I think my point is there are still a lot of people that don't think that there are mitigation measures being used, or at least attempted, beyond like somebody just banging at it with his rifle. Electronic warfare is very, very prevalent in Ukraine right now. Jamming, extremely prevalent. Again, there's a reason that we see the proliferation of the fiber optic drones. That's really what my point was there. So lots of jammers. I think we're still in kind of this honeymoon phase where we don't have anything that's really perfect for it, because in my mind, it needs to be a multi-layered suite of capabilities: permanent, semi-permanent, mobile, man-pack, shotgun, more or less. All right, let's move on. We are headed to Poltava. This is going to be, first of all, I want to shout out War Translated, Dmitry. I love his work. I don't speak Russian or Ukrainian, and he does. So that makes it super helpful when he translates something. That way I can give you more detail. So here is the link to this specific video, and I recommend that you just go ahead and follow his work if you like seeing translated videos. But this is footage of a Russian Shahed strike on what was reported to be a military enlistment office. 3 back-to-back banged on this thing. I think it was 3. There's 2. Here comes the 3rd. One. Oof. Now I'm going to give you a different perspective on this, and I've said this before. Shaheeds are not small, guys. Like I think there was a perception developed at one time that Shaheeds are kind of like FPV drones, and they're just kind of puttering along. No, these are big ass drones. Let me show you from on the ground close to that strike. Here you go. Look at the size of that damn drone, dude. This is that same video. This is kind of a compilation of sorts, it looks like here, but this is why I chose this view. So you can see that. That damn thing. It's a big burb. But that's one of the reasons that when Ukraine says there were 150 Shaheeds fired at us overnight, that's 150 of those damn things flying across the country. That's a big-ass drone. And it doesn't appear as though it's got a very small payload, or these ones don't. Look at that. All right. We've got more airstrikes here. We're going to be headed to the south. I have a geolocation for this, but I don't remember what oblast it was in. Let's see where we're at here. Oh, is that Kherson? Yeah. Here you are. So we're headed to this. Look, come on. Hello. All right. Fine. Well, to this location here. This is going to be JDMER. Specifically GBU-62, delivered by a Ukrainian MiG-29. Coming up now. All right, we're getting up to that video that I wanted to share with you guys. I don't have a great location for this video. What we're going to see here is 15 minutes of footage, and we're going to watch it together. I'm going to point some things out that I think are interesting, that's a valuable takeaway. There will be casualties that you see in this. You'll hear Trista. You'll hear rounds coming in. You'll see rounds going back out. This is the epitome of direct action of mechanized infantry. The dismount right into an ambush, more or less, in extremely dense terrain as well. Here is that footage.
Разбегаемся! До дерев, до дерев!
Наши там, наши там. Браво, браво, браво!
All right, so let's pause for a second. You just saw a casualty.
Браво, браво, браво!
Right here.
Линию растягивайся.
Я за ним! Держи! Крой, крой!
Я левее за ним. Все целы.
Да! Плюс! Скала, речь! Фрадик, за мною!
So something to think about as I see the comments about the blue headband. As he's moving through this brush. Think about that for a second. So while you're moving through that brush, you just see a dude wearing a multicam laying there. All right. Extremely dense. The fire's coming from real close. You're banging through the brush. Your adrenaline's super high. You see a dude in multicam, and both Russians and Ukrainians are wearing multicam or a derivative of multicam. What are the chances you put two in that dude's head? That's why you're seeing the blue tape here. That's why you're seeing Russia run the red tape and the white tape. Is in this circumstance, the bigger threat to you here is actually friendly fire, not necessarily being seen by the enemy. Because hopefully if you do your job as, you know, from a small unit perspective, you're establishing fire superiority in the first place so that they know you're there. They're going to see you come in, right? But you're hopefully establishing fire superiority, keeping their heads down. And as you are moving through establishing your bases of fire, you're able to see, hey, that's my buddy. I don't need to worry about him. I'll keep my gun the other way. So people talk shit about the blue headbands, the red headbands that Russia wears, the white armbands and headbands. There's a reason that they're both doing that. Here you are. Yes. Yes, I am, Bourbon Wrench. Yep. Yes, I am.
Швидше, швидше, швидше. Давай, 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 швидше, швидше.
Лям, я муди. Работай, работай, работай. Давай, блядь, я не фоксу вообще.
Ще зі мною.
Собирай своих людей. Давай, туда, давай, вверх, давай. Только 300 и высоко.
Сам і там, я твій брата.
Нужно с теми типами штурмовать ту М-ку.
Да, мої там десь висадилися, йду їх знайду.
Давай сюда, и М-ку выдвигайся тоже туда.
Да, плюс.
Парад, М-ку, парад!
Давай, 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 рух. Давай, 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 давай.
Let me pause for a second, guys. I'm going to check something. So we put this on the website, but it was after I put the, I had prepared the stream. Let me see. So we have closed captioning. It's on the website. Let's see if the closed captioning works for this one. First, let me set the quality. We were about 4 minutes in here. Here we go. Let's give this a shot.
Накат, накат, два вперед! Крой, крой, Гарри, огонь перенеси! Гарри, блядь! Огонь нахуй! Пошли! Готов, готов! С форда уебать может!
The text is cut off. All right, let's see if I can caption settings. Color white, opaque, black, transparent, proportional, text edge style. I don't think I can move it to the top for some reason. There's not much I can do, guys. Text edge style? I don't know what that means. There are some settings. I was hoping I could like make the text near the top of the screen. You know what I mean? Rather than on the bottom. Proportional sans serif edge style. Raised.
Что такое? Скалс! Живой? Скалс, Скалс, как ты? Теку, теку. Куда?
There you go.
Скалс, ты как? Скалс,
По роже въебало,
по носу.
наверное.
Да, нормально так все.
Очки улетели, на...
По носу уебал. Рби.
Мне глаза болят.
По носу.
I think he's saying he got hit in the nose, and I think it's a bad translation. Keep in mind, it's shitty AI translation, guys. It's not going to be perfect.
Ара, сам не йди. Плюс один до Ари, сука. Тут, взяли на связь.
Вот, бледа, плечо, давай швидше, відкидь.
Буде тут радійка їхня. Підерська.
Блядь, устраняйте проблему.
Да.
Не убивайте.
Підер живий. Да. Скільки у вас людей?
Там дальше еще есть люди.
Скільки людей?
Больше роты.
Більше роти?
Да.
Позиції, далі ваші позиції, да, бліндажі йдуть. Скільки звідси метрів? Не понял. Ти його бачив взагалі? Він, сука, ліпьоха.
Оп, перше місце?
Да.
Чоловіки, коротше, сказали, що у підерів план зайти по балки.
Да.
Наше командування сказало, щоб ви робили фаєртіми і робили накати.
Накати?
Да, фаєртімами.
Вони будуть іти Альфа-Браво, ми взаємні. Якщо там 300, помощь, откат, пацани зроблять накат, а придвинуться трохи далі, якщо по можливості, ми будемо відтягувати типів. Плюс-плюс.
А, то ми, коротше, троє на цьому. На тяжкі.
Що, друже?
А?
Чуть-чуть перекур і в'йо.
Давай, сука!
Окей, заходимо в бліндаж.
Цей?
Да.
Блядь, пусти.
Ти.
Єбать. БК, да?
Парилка. Давай в тот бліндаж залезем.
Кидаю гранату.
Я закину гранату.
Все, плюс.
Well, I see that question, Oak Stump. Or no, David. So a lot of Ukrainians actually wear American flags or even UK flags, especially those that went to some of the training camps that were put in place by Americans, the UK, etc. So you'll actually see quite a bit of that. Ronnie, we good? I think so.
СПшка вгорі.
How are you?
ЄСП.
Давай туди, нахуй.
Що, йде?
Да, давай. А? Да, 2 СПшки.
Я крию, йди.
Проблема. Туда.
І два в той. Тут твої нази.
Типи, гази, тут гази, пиздец, нахуй. Спортик є? Спортик. У тебе є противогази є? Гази. Зразу в лінію вистраюємо оборону. Підери, от, вони хочуть нас закрутити хочуть.
Ой, мій маленький помічник.
Да.
Ви знімаєтесь, ідете сідром.
Плюс. Плохой. Кому я иду, блядь? Лоб, я с тобой.
Там праник і скала.
Плюс.
І ми з тобою двох тут.
Плюс.
Зараз пересуваємося до їх. Як буде краще, бо посадкою густою не підемо нахуй.
Блядь, а как они шли? Надо по их торпе.
Я не знаю, як вони йшли.
У них правый фланг вытоптан трохи.
Двигаємося.
Давай, машиной.
Не спішіть по черзі, блядь! Скала, давай куди біжи, блядь!
Продвигайся, мод.
Сука! Та я розумію, що тут...
Давай, мам, я за тобой замыкаюсь.
Да. Не чую.
Куди навалити?
30 метрів, 40, окопна лінія підарів. Хай накриває нахуй. Цей йобаний кулеметник не дає пройти, блядь, заїбав він нахуй. Якщо там окопна лінія, хай роз'їбуть її нахуй, блядь. Всі цілі!
Всі цілі!
Плюс. Карта де? Карта? Да. А? Я не знаю, я ще очікую. Ми закріпляємося поки. Там...
No, the translation's not going to be 100% perfect, guys.
Ділянка.
Keeping in mind that it's AI, that it's not a human, and something that you'll have. Oof, that artillery. Something that you'll have with every language are like, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, hold on, I'll think about it. I'll come back to that thought. Colloquialisms, yes, Jeremy. So things that make a whole lot of sense if you're a native English speaker. And Russia is a friend of mine went through DLI for Russian and actually speaks very, very good Russian. Like, I think, what is it, DLI 3 or something. Russian is one of the hardest when it comes to that. I can't really speak to Ukrainian, but I would only imagine it's pretty damn close as well. Jargon, sure, yeah.
Хай разъебывает нахуй ту хуйню, блядь. Сука, не дает пройти, блядь, вообще, блядь. Линия, блядь! Я, блядь, як у кнопку лінію заскочу, я того кулеметика голими руками нахуй задушу, блядь.
Плохой! Довольно помню!
А ну похую, блядь. ССО чаечка, нахуй, блядь. Йобаний в рот, нахуй. Я маю, блядь, приймати перший бій, йобаний в рот, нахуй. Вони можуть туди нормально насипати, щоб ми, блядь, заскочили, блядь.
Am I hearing a female? Yes.
Плюс-плюс.
Ебать, сейчас сдохну, ебать. Чуть не кончился.
Из-за этого, блядь.
О! Пацаны, сидели!
Ебать, он прицельно ебашит.
Сюда, зараз наступний буде сюди, я вам буду.
All right, let's bring it back up. If she wants to be there, another soldier accept the risk. Yeah, so women in frontline combat has had with both Russia and Ukraine. We've covered footage of that in both circumstances there here. Let's move on to a couple more videos because we're already moving up towards the end of the stream here. Let me just be honest. The video we just watched is the epitome of the type of footage I would love to cover here. Extremely high definition, no music, some weird bumpy music overlaid with it. That is Funker 530 and what we want to archive as a part of really the only place on the internet that is solely dedicated against archiving use of force footage. There's a reason that we watched that all the way through. I think we skipped about a minute there when I was trying to find our place between the Twitter video and the YouTube version. But again, Will tweeted that one out for us, and it wasn't yet published to the website when I wrote it down. But anyway, that's the kind of footage that I would love to cover and only cover from now until forever. Right. But let's move on. Oh, woof. This is a brown pants video. So imagine you're sitting in a trench. And I've talked about this on a couple podcasts. There's a podcast coming out that I did with guns.com where I talked about the intersection of these antiquated defensive techniques, right? Well, technically antiquated. Trenches still very much are effective and being actively used. But what we consider to be antiquated defensive posture techniques like trench warfare and the intersection of modern precision munitions with that. That's what you're going to see here. Horrifying to think about.
Да.
Nah, pass, man.
Ебать. Все нахуй уходим. Ёбуем.
Correct. Yes, let's do that. Nope. Nah. All right. Let's bring it up. Yeah. Well, I'll show it to you. It's in the list of videos. I don't know if I'll get through every video tonight, but if you do want to check the full list of videos I had set aside for tonight, check our Twitter. I publish those on the Twitter. Anyway, here's this one.
Тихо, не спеши, братан. Бля, пацаны, я не увидел, нахуй. Тихо, не спеши, братан. Бля, пацаны, я не увидел, нахуй. Тихо, бро. Да ёбаный в рот. Блядь, что вы стоите-то, блядь? Сука.
Oof. Discretion advised on this next one. We're in the general section. I don't have great geolocations for any of this. Mines. There are a lot of them, and they can be set off by other munitions, which is what you're going to see here. So I'm going to let you watch a video. I'll tell you what happened. We covered that one earlier, Brandon. Yep. I didn't really want to, but we did. Ron, you missed the beginning, a head-on crash with a motorcycle? What? So what you're seeing here is a Ukrainian drone drop munition on a team of Russians on dirt bikes. They're trying to navigate a minefield right now. So one of the reasons that you lay these obstacles down isn't necessarily to just blow up tanks. It's quite literally to fix or slow down the adversary from being able to move through the obstacle. Concertina wire, mines. So that's exactly what you're seeing here. It took them a little bit more time. They couldn't just burn it up around that corner on those dirt bikes. That gave the drone operator time to drop a munition. That munition sets off all of the mines. All right. And speaking of mines, this one's interesting. So this is a Ukrainian. He's going to do his best to clear a minefield with his rifle. Don't. Y'all have all been there too. There it is. And he got it. Is it in there? It was definitely there. Can't say I've ever done that. Dude, I do it all the time. You know, I'm shooting at something and I'm not hitting the way I want, and I look at the gun. Like, I have the hubris to look at the gun because it's somehow the gun's fault for me being an idiot. That's just me, though. All right. I got 2 more videos for you. I want to reinforce something. Drones. There are so many technologies actively being developed right now for drone defense, but at the end of the day, what it's going to come down to ultimately is something kinetic at the very, very tail end of your defensive posture. So when I say that we are, the United States, developing permanent, semi-permanent, mobile, man-carried defensive, that means, you know, electronic warfare capabilities. That means even kinetic solutions on rifles that are automatically firing your rifle once it sees what it wants to shoot in the air. Until that happens, though, until we are in an operational deployment of something across the scale of that, across an army-wide scale, all of those things already exist individually, right? And each of them are tested and deployed, and you know they're working in their testing, but they are not operationalized at the military level. What you're going to have is basically the soldier fighting against the machines, and that's what you're going to see here. 2 Russians under thermal observation from a drone attempting to shoot down an FPV drone, and unsuccessfully. Discretion advised. So he is engaging this FPV drone when we're watching on from another drone. And one of the other things I wanted to cover on this is there's a running narrative from a lot of people right now that, wow, drones are such a cowardly way to wage war. Well, knights, I'm talking like armor-clad knights, they were super pissed when the firearm became prevalent. They called it cowardly because it meant that some peasant, it wasn't oftentimes peasants, you know, the firearms were expensive, but you get what I'm saying. But it meant some damn peasant could be 20, 30, 40 yards away and could punch right through his damn armor with some glowy, blowy uppy thingy, and they thought it was cowardly. This is the next evolution in warfare, right? You can think about it how you want, but ultimately, if you are not being prepared for it, were you to be a part of the next major conflict yourself, you're going to be a step behind. You can scream coward as much as you want as the FPV drone chases you down. All right. Let's check in on the support, and thank you guys very much for Mr. Hayes. Thank you for the $20, dude. That was 20 minutes ago. How did I miss that? My man, thank you for that. Santa, thank you for the $2, sir. Seth Stutz, thank you for the 19 months as a funker. Thanks for the hard work, guys. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate those that are here that understand the reasons that we do this show. And it's not to show you just the craziest stuff I could find. We saw some pretty wild shit tonight, but it's really stuff that I think there is a lesson behind, right? Or that I think there's context necessary to cover. There's going to be some times where I'm just showing you something that I think is neat. Sometimes I'm showing you a new technology. Sometimes where I'm trying to cover additional context to something that might not be available at its face value. The Tehran footage, for example. Yes, we have that footage now of this airstrike, and it's going somewhat viral today, but it took place on the 15th of June. So based on everything that the IDF would have had available to them, they would have known about how that strike went back on the 15th of June, right? So we have all that additional footage that we covered for that. But all I can say is that I truly appreciate you guys showing up when we do these. Sorry we had to do it on a Thursday. I'm going to be... By the time we would have streamed tomorrow, I'm going to be beers in watching fireworks. So probably not the best time to do the stream. I don't know. Maybe we can give it a shot sometime in the future. I appreciate you guys being here. I always have one more video for us to watch, though. Okay, before we split over to the other stream where I'm going to kick back with some bourbon and play Broken Arrow. But most of y'all have absolutely no idea where your quarter pounder comes from. And I wanted to share with you the process and what the people go through to bring you that quarter pounder. You never know what can happen. So maybe appreciate your double quarter pounder with cheese and bacon the next time you have it. Good night. Thanks very much. I'll see you on the follow-up stream. The chat will automatically give you an option to go over there once we're done here. Go be great and stay informed. Jesus. All right, I've had enough of your bullshit. Good night, everybody.